Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to HMP. I'm Adam Portress, and the podcast begins! That'll make sense later when we discuss 1976 Master of the Flying Guillotine as we continue our series on underseen classics. And joining me today, he too is on a quest to kill every one-armed man he sees, Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear, and after watching this movie, I have a severe phobia of red frisbees.
Stay out of the frisbee zone, people.
No more disc golf for this guy.
Man, today we're talking Master of the Flying Guillotine, and if you haven't seen this one before, I can promise you this. There's a bit of pop culture that you've consumed in your lifetime that has referenced this and you have not known. Because there is so much that is pulled from this in so many different facets, and we'll get into some of those and a whole bunch more. But before we do want to say a giant thank you to the people who support the show over at patreon.com/HMP. Those awesome people get pre-show, post-show, Dinger Zone on this week's Dinger Zone. We talk about the world a little bit. We talk about,
we talk about the holiday a tiny bit.
A tiny bit, but more of the state of movies and our kind of enjoyment, lack of enjoyment of them sometimes, and just but we kind of did a thankful/unthankful Thanksgiving kind of celebration, if you will. A little bit of here, a little bit of humbug involved with it, but when it's just us, of course there's going to be a little bit of humbug. Sean is out again this week. That is okay, but we got it held down here and everything. I think there's a chance that he might have actually seen this one. Of all the ones out there, I'm not 100%, but I think this one would probably have the highest possibility of Sean actually
just get
seeing
the idea that kung fu movies weren't really in his wheelhouse, but I might just be making
every now and then there's a stray thing that comes by where he will leg sweep you, if you will, and make you go, oh, you saw that? Get out of town. I wouldn't figure as you. And I feel like maybe Master of the Flying, that maybe, who knows? We'll talk about kind of even my finding out about all this kind of good stuff and everything. But again, patreon.com/HMP, all those good stuff. We appreciate all of you that continue to support. And if you drop off at any time, that's A-OK too. We understand that. And we just are glad that you were on board for any time that you were there, man. And like I said, whatever this show is worth to you, that be that $1 and on up, just do that, support the show and get more stuff in the same time too. But we'd also like you to support our buddies and stuff over at theworldswithin.net. Worldswithin.net, man, they are, you heard the promo at the top of the show for the last couple of weeks and everything. We've talked about them. They're almost there. They're over 75% of their goal. It is 1 week in, just a little less than a week as you hear this. So get it in gear, people. It looks pretty good. I got myself into the notoriety. What's it called? Let me look at I forget the, I'm the supporter at the, not the legend, the supporter. No. I was the superior recognition. I got the recognition one, so I get my name printed in it, so people know that I'm a fancy pants boy, and I like to be a fancy pants boy. But you know what? Here's what I'm thinking. This thing, if this gets when this gets, I'm gonna say when this thing gets funded within this next 7 days here and everything, and once this thing gets delivered and stuff, I think, because especially with how this is kind of designed for role playing and stuff, and just kind of taking away a lot of the bloat that's within a lot of that sort of stuff. We could be playing, and it's open to anything, so we can kind of play our own little game here. I think
we absolutely could, man. We just got to get people to get this funded so it's completed. But I love the way it's described as you pick your setting, and it just gives you a matrix, a rule matrix by which to make that a reality.
Yeah, just because there's so much of it, especially if you're into the kind of traditional, like your D&D and stuff like that. You got like a whole lot of homework to do before you start just about anything. It is like, yes. But with this, you're like, hey, let's streamline this a whole bunch, and then just kind of set it up to your own ideals, your own sort of thing. And so check that out. The link for them is in the show notes and everything. And we like to thank Sir Slick Derrick, the Night Bard, for his support over at patreon.com. And please check out his Kickstarter. We've got a little something that's different for you. We don't want to play a trailer per se, but I want to play the first opening little bits here of Master of the Flying Guillotine, because nothing could set up the plot better than the movie itself. So this Marvel could learn a whole lot from the beginning of this movie. Let's take a listen.
In the year 1730, during the reign of the Emperor Yung Cheng, one of the early emperors of the Manchu Qing dynasty, many kung fu experts were recruited by the emperor and were taught how to use that fearsome weapon, the Flying Guillotine. The purpose of this was to suppress and kill the supporters of the former Ming dynasty, and many of those patriots fell to the new weapon. Those who escaped went into hiding. It was to seek these remaining rebels out and kill them that the government sent a noted master of the Flying Guillotine, Feng Sheng Wu Qi. Feng, who was blind, disguised himself as a Buddhist Lama and lived in a mountain retreat with his two disciples, Chao Lung and Chao Fu.
So basically, his other folks get killed, and he is going out for revenge against a one-armed boxer. So I'll go ahead and read the IMDb plotline. As we know, IMDb always 100% correct in everything everything they say and or do. After his students are killed by the one-armed boxer, a vengeful and blind kung fu expert travels to a village where a martial arts contest is being held and vows to behead every one-armed man he comes across. This is written, directed, and starring Jimmy Wang Yu. We call that a triple threat.
Oh yeah.
Bruce, had you ever seen Master of the Flying Guillotine previous to this entanglement?
I think at some point I'd seen like a TikTok or some kind of meme video showing the kind of ridiculous weapon of the title, the Flying Guillotine. But no, I never seen the movie. Also, I got a question for you, Adam.
Yes.
Did you know this was a sequel?
There's a lot of one-armed boxer movies and stuff with Jimmy, so I'm not sure if this is a direct one.
This is the second one, and it was a direct sequel to the one-armed boxer.
Right.
Some places called it the one-armed boxer 2. But the whole thing that it's telling you at the beginning, now I haven't seen the one-armed boxer, but I read in the summary that what they're telling you is that fight against the two underlings is how the first movie ended. So this is like a direct sequel.
It's been a minute, but I'm fairly certain I did see that one way back when, because like you go through a little Jimmy Wang Yu phase when you start kung fu films and stuff like that, and you learn who this guy is, and like he was kind of he was the Bruce Lee before Bruce Lee in a lot of ways.
Well, I was wanting to talk a little bit about that compare and contrast. I mean, first off, I kind of am a sucker for the fantasy kung fu movie. I don't know. Is there like a name for the movies like this where it's magic? Like kung fu is magic, martial arts is magic, versus with the Bruce Lee movies. I mean, a big part of his deal was everybody's supposed to believe that Bruce Lee was really that person on screen.
Right.
So they wanted you to kind of believe it was real, but I don't think anybody watched this and believed that some of the stuff we're going to talk about was at all real.
No, I'm trying to think. I feel like so stupid that I don't that it's not coming to the top of my head. It's one of those things where you're just like, oh, I know this, and at the same time too, I feel like if I say it, it's gonna be the wrong thing, and somebody's gonna be like, you idiot, and I'd be like, yeah, you're right. But yeah, there is that level of martial arts film that has kind of it is a martial arts film through and through, 100%, but to a degree that like the elements and like the physics of the world just don't exist.
Yeah. And all martial arts films, even more recent ones that claim to be actual biographies like Bloodsport, still have ridiculous elements in it. But
Bloodsport was a documentary and the events occurred in real time.
But they want you to believe that you can master the martial arts and do this. I don't think anybody ever believed. Well, anybody ever believed that an Indian guy could make his arms stretch by doing yoga?
Wait, listen, but that was always kind of a thing, though. People like the kind of the lore, if you will.
I think it's only lore because of this movie. I really do.
I don't know. Like I said, I don't know enough about the history. Maybe somebody who is
Neither do
better,
I, man. I'm talking out of my
versed.
backside again, but still, it kind of feels like this movie. The guy that made Street Fighter 2 loved this movie, so he made Dulcine.
But listen, if not, like, here's the thing: if and that's the case, awesome, because guess what? One awesome thing led to another, because this one's wild and crazy. If that wasn't enough, let me sell everybody on this over-referenced and underseen kung fu classic, because this sucker's got everything. We open with a crazy rock quarry and learn the whole plot of the movie in 2 minutes. Marvel, you could learn something here. We got an old blind monk with long gray beard who's secretly a badass. That's how you know right away this one's going to be a banger. We got a flying guillotine demonstration on fake heads. It's both amazing and stupid at the same time. Don't worry, we'll get to it. Jumping around in your pajamas. I know that's culturally insensitive, but guess what? It's also funny. Shut up. Wicker basket walking. We got Jimmy Wang Yu does his best Lionel Richie impression. Shield and club fight. Cinder block kicking. Dance number or Tai Chi. Who's to say? Little sister enters the chat. We got a little brown face going on. See, everybody's guilty. Don't worry about it. Speaking of not good, is that a swastika? No, it's not. We'll get into it, though. We got gross eating. Good thing Sean's not here. Stolen valor, but don't lose your head. Oh, that's too late for that. We got random Cantonese, greased-chested kettle drummers. It is a tournament, after all. A shirt with no chest. It'll make sense later.
I love that one.
A mustache, a tongue guy, crotch kicking that leads to a foot breaking. Seems appropriate, no? But they won't stop that one-footed man from sliding over and kicking that dude in the jewels again, and then yanking that dude's eye out, and then he proceeds to kick him in the fortune cookies again for the final blow. We got auntie versus monkey style, flipping your pants off. Had enough of fighting on the ground? How about a series of 6-foot poles? Still not enough? We're going to throw in swords down below in the pools that you fight above that. That's fine. Freddy Krueger arms. We got more mistaken identity. Firebomb in the stage. Red zone flashback. Blowing up your guts. Portrait burning. Owl petting. Bamboo. How not to. Talking in a stream, fighting in a room whose windows are guarded by spears, a metal floor that has a fire underneath it, and one of your combatants is shoeless. We got a bamboo fight, dove attacks, and a through-the-roof ending that'll leave you asking, how many people have sat on the shoulders of this underseen kung fu classic? The answer is a ton. This movie has everything.
Oh, man, I don't even know where to get started, but I want to pick a place, Adam, because this thing is conversation. People could talk for 3 or 4 hours about this, but we're not going to do that.
It's wild. But here's part of it. I just want to say, is as crazy as this movie is and as wild as it kind of seems, there is so much in this that is just formulaic kung fu film, even of Jimmy Wang Yu films, and I'll get into that and stuff as well. But it's so funny to watch because we talk about like our movies and stuff today being formulaic. This is so absolutely formulaic, but in the best ways. And again, if you haven't seen a lot of these things, they're not nearly as formulaic as all that. But boy, is this a type of story that gets told a jillion times.
And you kind of wonder, like, where does this fall in the timeline of formulaicness? Like, was this the first one? But no, it's like 75 or something. So that formula, I think, had been established.
No, they were plenty at this. Jimmy had finished his final little run at Shaw Productions and stuff like that with your like King Boxer and things like that, where people are dressed like the guys in this and stuff, which I also think was Jimmy kind of patting himself on the back going like, hey, look, that's the other character I used to play.
Now, can I ask you a question about Jimmy? And if it's okay, I'll just call him Jimmy, because sometimes I invert the letters on his last name and people might think I'm making a tasteless joke, but it's really just like, I'll just call him Jimmy.
Yeah.
So he's a man who clearly has 2 arms. So what made him decide he wanted to link his career to a one-armed boxer?
It kind of took off.
His one-legged kicker idea never took off, but the one-armed boxer did great.
There's got to be somebody with only one leg in one of these deals. I swear to you.
There's got to be, right?
How could there not be? And I'm sure I feel like I've probably even seen it, but I don't remember.
I also would, now it's just me. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but I would think only having one arm would give you a distinct disadvantage at martial arts.
That's how much of a BA that Jimmy Wang Yu is that he doesn't even care. He will chop you down, and he always looks so smooth doing it too. That was the best part about him, is that like, and at this point in
Nobody
his career.
Fights. Nobody he has ever fought. I'm sorry, I keep interrupting you.
That's okay. Like, he's hitting it a lot at this point in his career. So, like, he's actually, at this point, he's gotten really good at it.
Fortunately, he never fought a single person with a left hook.
No.
Because that's his one weakness. Oh, he hit me with the left hook.
But he even fights with, like weapons and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, one-armed weapon fighting. That takes a lot of, guts, I guess.
Now, I'm going to tell you that not being familiar with the one-armed boxer franchise, watching this movie, it was a good long time before I realized that the one-armed boxer was not the bad guy.
Right. So the master of the Flying Guillotine is the villain. We opened the movie with the villain who's going after our hero. And then, like, his name, which props to Jimmy for this and everything, because, like, it's the one-armed boxer character, but you're not capitalizing off of that. We're capitalizing off of the cool killing element.
And also because I did not recognize Jimmy by sight, I'll say. I myself was faked out about the one-armed boxer a couple times, because there are not one but three people with one arm who do martial arts in this movie.
Like, that was also part of the best part of this too, is like kind of watching again with like my each time as you watch a lot of martial arts films and then you watch more and stuff like that, you accumulate more knowledge, and then you watch back and you're like, oh, okay, I see more of this stuff now. But this is one of those where I watch back and it is like, oh, I'm seeing more things that I didn't see before, and it's just like it's stupid, it's formulaic, but and you know where every turn is going to be.
Yeah.
But you just don't care.
I also, like, I never watched the television show The Fugitive, but I did see the Harrison Ford movie, as we all did.
It's fantastic. Gosh, it's such a
so
good movie.
I'm immediately thinking the one-armed man is a villain because of The Fugitive, and like the Fugitive TV show could have potentially influenced this. So I'm really rolling with the old dude who's been hiding in the woods and wants to avenge his students. Like, he sounds like his motivation is all good here.
That seems pretty noble, right?
And he's blind. Can we not have at least one person who's functional here?
Now now the VO also does kind of go like, well, he does lie and say he's a monk.
No, he lies and says he's a llama, which I would have loved it if he was dressed in a llama costume, like the animal from South America. But that's a story for another day. If he was disguised as a Buddhist llama, but an actual beast of burden, more like an alpaca, I should say. Anyway, back on
is this the Emperor's New Groove?
He kills the first guy that he kills, which is just like a vagrant who's pretending to be the one-armed boxer.
Which what a great conceit, the fact that, okay, so we've got this guy, he's blind. And by the way, let's talk about this for half a second. The theme for the Master of the Flying Guillotine, you heard in the House of Flying Leaves in Kill Bill. Just as all of those assassins are coming in on her, that little chugga, 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 that is the Master of Flying Guillotine, right? And it is throughout this film, and it's so good.
I also did just a little reading about the soundtrack, because some of it felt like something that was put in years later, but it was actually 1970s German hard rock in this Chinese kung fu movie soundtrack.
Everybody was like the 70s were a time where like everybody was influenced by everybody and everybody was taking stuff from everybody. It was super interesting. That's
why they call it that golden age of creative cinema, altruistic cinema.
Yeah, and that's when and that's why the 80s were looked at as like just a really dopey time, because it's just like, what are we doing? This is like compared to what wild and crazy stuff was going on in the 70s. This is like just tame Hollywood crap, and then you look at today and it's like, oh, it's just all superhero films. And
we should slow down and say what a difference one letter makes, the letter Y, because dope and dopey are so different.
Indeed.
But anyway, back here, there's with the scene when he kills the vagrant who's twitching and everything. Like, to me, this guy was clearly not well, and the blind master kills him. And then they say, hey, you killed the wrong guy. And he says, I don't care, I will kill every one-armed man I find. And I was like, whoa, this is some like dark anti-hero stuff going on here. This is like
he's at
Wolverine
a
or the
Punisher
Punisher.
level.
Yeah. And then slowly I start to realize, oh no, that was a clue that he's the bad guy.
And I'll kill every woman and child if I need to. Bruce is still like, I'm on board with them. I don't know where he's going, but I'm going to see.
Oh my goodness, this is like Berserk.
But, and again, it's great excuses to then like actually, because we saw in the opening sequence and everything, him throw the flying guillotine. Let's describe what that kind of looks like to people if you haven't seen it.
It starts off as like a red dome with like saw blade edges around it. Like it's red dome. It kind of looks like a hat.
Yeah, it's like a six-sided hat that kind of is,
when it lands on your head, it turns into like a beekeeper's hat because a net drops down so that it encompasses your whole head. And he gives it the old flick of the wrist, and off comes the head.
Now, I will say one of the few things that I can point a finger and wag a little bit here at this film is the lack of pressurized Asians. We don't have any in this, and it is so sad because what
is a pressurized Asian?
It's like in all these in martial arts films, there's a lot of Asian cinema stuff. It's just like you saw it like you see it there in Kill Bill Volume 1. When a head gets chopped off, we are spurting blood like it is the 4th of July.
Yeah, I think of that as more Japanese cinema because that's where it started. So I also haven't seen much.
There's enough spread in Hong Kong films for sure.
I could totally see where people would see the success or the look on the screen from something like Lone Wolf and Cub, and then you're not that far away making some cinema in China. You'd want to borrow those techniques. Yeah, I could see that.
We need a little bit more of that. We needed some more blood in this, and even for some Hong Kong films, there is a little light on the blood in this movie, despite there being a decent number of kills and stuff like that.
But this is that fantasy kung fu that gets referenced whenever somebody's doing a parody of kung fu movies. Mm-hmm. It's that fantasy kung fu that clearly Tarantino loves. And it's something that I think is kind of fun because you never really pay it. Doesn't matter what the name of the movie was. It's something that would show during a rain delay for a Braves game on WTBS in 1986. And then as soon as the rain started, they just stopped the movie right in the middle and you didn't really care because you got a good 40 minutes of kung fu out of it.
Yeah, some people were kicking each other and that was fine.
Yeah, so it's just got that nice, I almost want to say goofy because I can't think of a better word for it, but I like it. I don't mean that to be a negative, but it's just got that nice, nobody here is taking themselves too seriously. There's definitely no Kurosawa involved in this kind of stuff. And I don't know, is there a term that sort of differentiates this fantasy kung fu from the stuff that maybe people are more familiar with that gave us the kind of DNA that started with Bruce Lee and then went on to Chuck Norris and Jackie Chan and some of that kind of stuff, which is very different from this feel.
I don't know if it's the wuxia type films. I don't know if that falls
I would
under
use. I gotta say once again, not intentionally culturally insensitive, but the word I was thinking was wushu. And I think that what the word you said is the actual word.
It's wuxia.
As a kid in Kentucky, you don't learn to say things right.
Yeah, it's just and at the same time too, you also, as a white guy, just kind of go all right, that sounds racist if I'm saying it like that. Sometimes it's because if you're wrong, you seem like a dumb.
I think of the actor comedian Jimmy Yang.
Oh yeah.
So whenever I say Jimmy Wang Yu, I've been saying Jimmy Yang Wu. And people might think I'm doing that because I think it's funny, and I don't think it's funny. Literally, I can't not think about Jimmy Yang for some reason.
I would imagine that Jimmy Yang would be very excited to be compared to Jimmy Wang Yu because Jimmy Wang Yu is actually so awesome. Think about this though, this guy, what do you think about this guy as our hero and stuff? He is a good-looking dude who makes himself the baddest character that there ever is. He walks around, he commands this entire army of people that, he's like, straighten up your arm, you do this, right? And he's the guy who's got one arm that can still whoop every single person in the room.
I wonder if he was the inspiration for that tough veteran in that early Simpsons episode. Remember the one-armed veteran that trains the kids?
When the bus driver tells you not to hang your arm out the window.
He means it.
Do it.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, but that guy, I wonder if he's inspired by the one-armed boxer.
I don't know. There's just, I think he was actually inspired by like going into those army surplus stores and just seeing dudes that ain't got no
You're
arm.
Probably right. You're probably right.
They were
Vietnam era was still around back then.
Yeah, it was Vietnam vets and stuff like that. They were coming in and seeing guys with the little pinned up shirt and everything. I think they literally saw that in those stores.
You know, the VA wasn't getting prosthetics for those guys like they do now.
No.
You know, it was a very different time. But we got so much to talk about here, man. It's like we can go around and around and just spot hit stuff. One of the first things that catches my attention is there's a Thai boxer who the barefoot guy that we're going to talk about, but the Thai boxer wants to enter the tournament, and the guy says, well, you're a foreigner, we shouldn't let you in, but we will. Meanwhile, once the tournament starts, we got a Japanese guy, an Indian guy, a Mongolian guy, and I'm like, why was he singling out the guy from Thailand?
I feel like there was definitely some lost in translation stuff here. Because we're watching like an English dub and stuff, and like I don't know that there's even like a what I would call a true definitive version of this out there that's like, you know, pristine and good looking and remastered. And I don't know if that'll ever be possible, because I feel like if it was, somebody would have done it by now because there's money in it. But I feel like that's a lost in translation kind of thing, because that's the whole point of these things. Now, I'm going to go back to another Jimmy movie of King Boxer, where it's essentially this exact same plot, save for there's not an assassin that's on the loose, but it is kind of like there's a giant tournament. So many of these movies are tournaments. We bring in all of these people, and it's then showcase of styles versus styles and stuff like that. It's more entertainment.
These are the movies that led to Enter the Dragon, you know, because Enter the Dragon is the famous, successful, quote, big budget version of this Kung Fu tournament.
Right.
Then,
they were all just using the stuff that had happened, 15 years prior to that and stuff, but just nobody had seen it to that level.
And clearly, these kind of movies are why video games like Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter 2 in particular, you know, why those things were made, because the whole idea of the greatest fighters from around the world join and fight just because that was something that we had been buying into for 20 years.
But here's the thing, though, dude. It still constantly works, and you can redo it. You can change characters. You can change stuff. It is one of those kind of stories that always tends to work. We talked, and we can laugh at it, whatever. But like Bloodsport's this it's all the same stuff.
Yes, Enter the Dragon.
We keep telling all of these same story. What's it called? It's Unhinged in America. Danny the Dog, the Jet Li film. All of this crap is the same. It's all the same thing for the last like 40 plus years. But if you do it right and you do it entertaining, it doesn't matter. That's what Marvel movies and stuff. That's what like a lot of the comic book movies need to recognize, is that like, you can tell these same stories over and over. You just have to do it in an entertaining way. I know that sounds like an impossible thing to do, and it's very difficult to define all of that and kind of, condense it and bottle it down and stuff. But ultimately, stuff like this is proof. This is super fun, but I've seen this movie, and I don't mean this particular movie, but this type of movie. I've seen this 78 Ways to Sunset, but I still enjoy it because of the way that it's done.
And, I'm not by any stretch of the imagination a person who is like familiar enough with different martial arts styles that I have the bona fides to sit and talk about it. But the guy from Thailand has a very recognizable, like Muay Thai is something that we know thanks to UFC and stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Now in the 70s, nobody knew what it was. And I may not have the eye to see it, but it's like, this guy's a Thai boxing expert, but he fights exactly like everybody else. I didn't see those knees getting thrown. He didn't have that typical Thailand stance that I know from the Jean-Claude Van Damme classic kickboxer. He didn't even put his fists in broken glass.
No, there's none of that. That was, I always loved that. And then Hot Shot's doing it even better, just little gummy bears or whatever the hell it was. It's just fun. Like I like, that's one of the things about this movie, is that you get onto this next character. It facilitates a fight.
I wasn't sure if the Indian guy was Indian or just a Chinese guy that happened to be dressed like that.
Yes,
because you mentioned the brown face.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't fool me. Like, maybe the guy really is Indian. I don't know. Like, I don't know enough. I know that India is a diverse country. Not everyone looks the same. But I don't think he was Indian. The actor,
no, he was certainly not. He was like, there's There's several type of Indian, and he doesn't look like he didn't look Middle Eastern at all. Let's be honest. He looked proper Asian. I know it's all kind of
There's no proper or improper Asian, but he looked like he could be from China, not from India.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Just,
you know what? I would even buy it if they said he was Nepalese. We would have split some hairs.
But it was like you can. And the best part is we don't shy away from like a close up or nothing of them. We're tight up in there, and it's just like, yeah, we can kind of see where the makeup ends at the shirt.
And he's got the long arms, and as soon as those long arms come out, I'm having flashbacks to Dragon Con and the Roger Corman Fantastic Four, because that's the same arm effect that Reed Richards had.
Mm-hmm. Some of these arm effects, when they finally had the big fight with him and stuff, they do it well enough. There's a couple of moments where, you obviously see the long arms and stuff, and you can't really articulate because you don't have the budget for that, for moving the fingers or anything or putting them in fists and having them really connect while they're nice and long. But while they were also long, they would go to another shot that was down by the opponent facing back up towards him. And they would have they had him holding out his hands with the long stretches in them, but the hands themselves kind of almost dipped underneath camera, where they had someone else's hands in there that would actually move. So it made it look like that effect. And if you cut back and forth, as Jimmy does enough in this, not a ton, I feel like we probably in some cases could have used a little more coverage throughout this film. But what it is what it is.
It's a person who's an actor first directing is how I felt, instead of a director first who's acting.
But like little touches like that were really great, and then being able to break the arms when they were super long and stuff like that. Very cool looking. Was it weird? Is it kind of corny? But yes. But again, that's also what endears you to it. Like the flying guillotine is a stupid idea. It doesn't work on paper, but it's awesome.
Can you think of a dumber weapon that they expect us to take seriously? Like, this isn't a joke movie. This movie is not like Kung Fu Hustle, which I loved. This movie is serious, and they're all intimidated by this flying guillotine, which I think it's almost borderline self-parody when the one-armed boxer says, hey, he can't fight me if I'm in the middle of some poles. I mean, like of course he can't. You know what I mean? Like the only other weapon that I can think of that is almost this impractical that they expect us to think is amazing is the weapon from Crawl.
Oh yeah, that thing.
And I can almost see that being inspired by this.
You're just gonna stab yourself with that one.
Yeah. What do you think happens with this one when you yank it back?
Oh no, oops, that wasn't.
Like, there's no way that anybody in Imperial China or anything ever actually had a weapon like this, right? Like, am I talking about how there's no leopards in India and we're going to get all these historical documents of flying guillotines?
Well, I don't know about flying guillotines, but I'm sure there's something. It's so wacky. But the cool thing is too, though, what I really like about it that I don't think, we focus quite enough on. We do a little bit, but maybe I feel like it could almost be a better element, is how small that the flying guillotine folds down to.
Yeah,
it
super
turns
tiny. Into like
it's
like I'm trying to think of something good to compare it to. It's like a camp chair, like a really small camp chair that is like, wow, that folds all the way down into something you can put in your backpack, but then you pull it out and it's a comfortable sized chair.
But and then this thing just goes whoosh, and turns into a full-fledged hat that looks like a lamp that your grandma had, and then you throw it across the room and then slice off somebody's head with it. It's stupid, but something about it just works.
The movie, and I thought to make this work, and I could be wrong, but there had to be at least 4 props that they used to make this, because there's no one thing that could actually do this with the technology they had available.
No, there were probably a lot of reverse shots that then were printed, so the guillotine is going off as opposed to going on, and then you just reverse the film and it's like, it just plopped right on the head, like just as we planned.
I do love something about this flying guillotine. When it cuts a head off, people are still exactly as tall as they were with their head. They just don't have a head now. I love that aspect.
It's like it's the only time that you can just get a haircut and still remain the same height. I don't know how it works, but it's amazing. They're like, listen,
their shoulders go up and their head comes off.
We can't do any blood because my head can't spurt any blood, doggone it. That's why there's no extra, crazy blood in this movie, because we can barely afford to keep my head underneath my shoulders.
That's low budget when you can't budget some corn syrup. Corn syrup and food coloring is out of reach for this production.
Do it in a wide shot. They'll never know. They'll never know. We knew. We knew all the times. All of the times we knew. But again, you don't care on this one. Again, it's one of those that like you see it and you don't care because all of a sudden they play that Flying Guillotine Master theme again and you're back on board.
Man, and the scene. Let's talk about the scene with the Thai boxer on the copper floor, tin floor.
Yes.
Like, first off, who builds a hut like this? It seems like an odd. Like they had to. Did they just build it specifically to kill the Thai boxer?
Boy, we really set this guy up good.
and I understand the concept. One of you is barefoot, but the other one's wearing like ballet slippers, so they're not getting. I mean, unless they're made out of asbestos. You think he had asbestos soles in those ballet flats he was wearing?
Well, at least when the fight is over, he does go and stick his feet in water, and it's just like, oh, thank God. I was, even though during that entire scene, I did not look like as it was affecting me whatsoever. I think they finished up the scene and go, you know what? We should talk about how his feet probably were still burning up a little bit because he's not wearing like Timberlands over here. He's he's wearing socks with a slight rubber sole. Like, if you're lucky,
this would have been a good time to have him fight the guy with two peg legs. You know what I mean? Like let's turn the weakness into a strength, and the guy with no legs suddenly has the advantage while he's bouncing around on his two peg legs.
What if his peg legs then heat up and then he uses his peg legs to like kick at him and stuff and try to burn with him?
They catch on fire and he does like a big spinning kick and burns the guy's face. Yeah,
that was cool though. Like all of the room itself had like a fireball bar all around the floor and stuff like that. So all the fire was coming up. How very cool.
That had to be dangerous as heck.
Oh, it was 100% real. It was just like, nope, they set that junk up and it was on fire. There were no makeup
effects. They literally burned that poor actor.
And again, a really cool idea. We've got this metal floor that is, and they keep showing us them throwing more fuel on the fire and making it hotter even. And so you just see him bouncing up and down with it. And like they have the windows inside this big giant metal building that they're in. Well, it's not that giant, but this big metal building that they're in. And then there are guys on the outside on all four windows that all have spears. And anytime he tries to fly out, all of the people are pointing the spears going, nope, you stay back in there.
So here's my question for you, Adam, because I think I know what I would do because I'm very tender-footed. Would you take your chances with the spears? Because I thought, you know what? I believe I would just grab a couple spears with my hands and jump and hope they didn't get my nards.
Yeah, I mean, like at some point you gotta. I don't know. It's tough.
Like
would you rather be sliced up or burned up?
When buildings are on fire, eventually people get so desperate they jump out of like the 30th floor window with nobody to catch them. So if you would do that, I think you'd try your luck with the spears, because I do believe you could probably get through with just a few flesh wounds if you angled it right. Yeah. Or you get a quick death instead of cooking while you're alive. Either, that might be better too.
Stay over to like one side and like maybe kind of like try to lure the other guys over there and then make a quick run to the other side maybe.
I say you grab as many as you can with your hands and try to split and fly.
There was at least, but like, think about it. There was how do you recruit this one? Hey, I need you and we're going to say at least 8 other guys to go down and get some spears, the sharp ones now. And this man is going to be inside this building fighting one of our buddies, right? And he ain't got no shoes on. He's going to try to get out of these windows because we can't afford the window part. But we do have you, and we need you to stand outside and point. How do you get these people on board? They're like, yeah, I'll cook this guy to death. I'll do that, please. Yeah.
And at this point, you can say because of honor, you don't want to just assassinate him. You want to lure him into the fight. But this fight is such a trap. Why not just hide in the bushes with a crossbow and shoot him when he walks by?
Why don't they just because at the end he so dude gets all fried up. They fry him up like a hamburger on the flat top. And so he's dead at this point. And then our one-armed boxer comes out, puts his feet in some water, and they're just like, well, I guess they're done. Why didn't you let him out? Why didn't you just let him out and keep the other guy in there? Why don't you just keep him in the oven? Why is the one-armed boxer got to be in there with him? Just slip out the door and cook him inside there like the cruel treat that it is. There's some
kind of honor or something. Like he has to prove he can defeat him. But it's not a fair fight if one guy's on fire and the other guy's not.
Look, I got my shoes on. I got my shoes on. Hey, let's play the
Oh.
floor as a hot steaming lead. Oh wait, we're doing that right now.
Now, did you ever understand quite why the Mongolian guys nads were immune to kicks?
He's just tough. Just a tough guy.
So that's his whole thing. He's the tough Mongolian, which I think might kind of be a Chinese stereotype that would have made sense to them.
Yeah, I mean, like big dudes and stuff like that. They were kind of, that warrior kind of thing and stuff. And
I mean, I would imagine in my mind, which is all twisted from, living a long, long way from China, but I would think like in China, you might see a Mongolian the way we think of a Viking,
Yeah,
Something
yeah,
like
exactly.
The tough northern guy.
Big giant that's kind of like a bigger than life kind of thing, and is you feel like you could punch him a whole bunch of times and it wouldn't do nothing.
But I wonder if they had famously tough scrotes or something like that. They were legendary for taking crotch shots.
Yeah, you know what they do over there. That's how they start their days off.
You see, they should have put him in the ring with Bobby Hill.
Some people stretch, not these guys.
You didn't even laugh at my Bobby Hill.
I got it.
Okay, that's my purse.
I think Bobby's going to be an adult in this new King of the Hill. You hear about this?
Oh man, good for him.
Good for him. He finally grew up. I wonder if Pam Adlon's still doing the voice though.
I could not tell you the answer to that.
Don't know. I'm bringing up stuff that doesn't have answers that we know the answer to. So sorry.
Also, they had the Japanese guy,
mm-hmm.
and they say he's Japanese, so I'm expecting him to lean into the samurai thing. Give him I guess they decided that the thing Japanese people like to do is walk on poles or something. I have no idea what the Japanese guy's shtick was.
His hat, I think. Didn't he have a hat?
Like he could walk on blades. Like they have the blades and the poles that they got to fight on this weird platform.
Which is again another like big giant martial arts construct is the kind of pole fight and stuff. I mean, there's I
think of famously hidden. Didn't they do some of that in like the Crouching Dragon, Hidden Tiger?
Yeah, I think there was some in that. If memory serves, it's been a long time since I've seen that one, and honestly, that was let's kind of half rewind for just a second, but just to kind of talk about kind of the kung fu history, if you will. So, like in this country, for kind of like the second generation after like your 70s kung fu boom and stuff like that, but like in the 2000 there when Crouching Tiger came out, it did revamp and kind of put a little bit of a kick into the martial arts genre yet again. And one of those people then was Quentin Tarantino, who then brought us Iron Monkey and stuff like that, and said, "Oh, if you like this, you'll like this." And then I was one of those people that then glommed onto that, and then just kind of took a little bit of everything. And like this was one of those ones that I kind of picked up early because you hear about them, and again, and like your Wu-Tang references and stuff like that, and then when you hear all the different music cues and stuff that everybody has used throughout albums and other stuff through so many years, it's bananas. And that's what I just like going back to this yet again, just to see. To me, it's like putting on an album.
Oh yeah, exactly. I mean, this is the kind of thing. It is not a plot-driven story. It's the reason why when I was a kid, I probably watched Bloodsport 76 times.
Yeah.
It's just it lends itself to that.
You can step in any moment. You can watch a couple of the fights and be entertained with that. And like none of them are of such an amazing level that you go bananas, but they're good enough. You can pop in and pop out. And you don't feel guilty if you don't watch the rest of it either. Yes. I think like you said, you could watch this on a rain delay and not be super sad when they go back to the seventh inning or whatever. But
suddenly they go back and you're cheering for the batter to do a backflip and hit the pitcher with the bat.
Yes, but all of that kind of like, but seeing the like the pole fighting and stuff like that is such a great just a trope and everything throughout a lot of these kung fu films and stuff. I love putting the blades in there as another little trick, and again, we don't explain it, but he does have just the feet of steel that he can just stand on these things and doesn't even care. And I'm like, but I also love that we get a guy who just falls flat in his face on the blades and just goes out. And I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah, there's a range of how you can lose these matches. Like you said, a guy just totally emasculates his face on blades and he's dead. There's one match with 2 winners because they both died.
Yeah, I love
And
how they're
then
both
one guy
winners and not
loses.
losers.
One guy loses because she undoes his belt and he moons the Coliseum and he just runs away in shame. Like, that's the kind of loser I want to be. Like, no need to kill me. Just pull my pants down, and I'll be out of here.
She slices his belt and he backflips 15 times, and through the process, his pants fall down, and then
Best scene of the movie.
And it's like, really? That's okay, but I'll take. It's funny.
There was something that looked like a stroke of genius to me, and it's totally played to be serious and not funny at all, but I thought it was hilarious, is they kind of have like a flashback to the one-armed boxer fighting the 2 disciples.
Oh, yes.
And one of them has like the inflatable, what was her name? Violet Beauregard from Willy Wonka.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's genius. It's like one of those inflatable sumo things. How are you going to hurt a guy wearing that?
It's so cool
He pops a hole in it and the air blows him off the cliff. I mean, it's like a cartoon, and I loved it.
It's great because it's all in that great red colored flashback thing and all this stuff. And then they bust back and it's Jimmy at the school just going, and that's why this dude's trying to kill me. It's like, I swear to God, y'all got to stay still and don't be getting out of this school because he's out here trying to kill me and stuff.
Yeah, I love
so
the shtick,
funny.
though. You can be the inflatable armor shtick. You can be the deadly hat shtick. And then there's the guy who's cutting bamboo with an axe, and he just keeps trying to cut it and trying to cut it, and it won't cut the bamboo, but he doesn't stop. And I
very confusing, this guy. It's just like, hey, this is
no
broken.
one-
I'll keep doing it. It's still
and I feel
broken.
like he's an adult. How is it that this is the first time he's ever tried to chop bamboo? It looks like a major building material in this town.
Yeah, and it's so strong, but like at the
And
same
nobody
time,
offers to help the poor guy either. It's like the one-armed boxer over there should have stood up and said, "Hey, buddy, you got to get a saw, not an axe for bamboo."
Yeah.
No, he doesn't even help the poor guy. Just lets him sit there like an idiot.
we let him go because otherwise he'd be bothering us.
It's kind of like maybe that was one of those busy jobs. Like he's just annoying the heck out of his grandpa trying to help around the house. So he says, "Here, take this axe and go chop some bamboo. Just keep him busy all day. Get him out of your hair."
And give him a little Charlie work. He's fine. Send him down. He'll be A-okay with it. What do you think about our kind of big climactic ending when we finally get our one-armed boxer? Well, after a couple of non-starters there killing other one-armed men throughout the town. Which, by the way, this whole place is it's littered with one-armed men.
Yes, it is.
I've met a couple people that are sans like a finger or so like that, but even that's been super rare. Like I don't know that I've seen one armless man, much less 4 in the same
I've got
town.
a friend who's he moved to Arizona recently, but he's a one-armed contractor. And he was over
supervisor.
He actually fell from a ladder and broke his back and was hurt pretty bad for a while.
Goodness.
But we had a going away party for his family here at the house. And, I was putting some stuff out on the grill. It was the summertime, so we're having a pool party, and I was carrying some stuff out. And he looked at me and he said, "I would give you a hand, but last time you never returned it." So I do have the one-armed friend with a good sense of humor.
Oh, I would hope to be that guy. If you've got something that's like obviously just the worst thing, it's Sucksville. There's no way about it. But if you can live through it with a little bit of a twinkle in your eye, God bless you.
Oh yeah, if a joke doesn't go over, he says, "I don't know what happened. I was clapping loud as I could." He has all the one-armed names.
Yeah.
But yeah, the town filthy with blind people, one-armed men. Like, are there no healthy people left to fight? Like, it's been such a vicious civil war that this is kind of a Mad Max scenario.
Maybe you should learn his name and just go, Frank. Are you Frank? Frank?
Come to think of it, does he have a name?
I don't think so.
Oh man, I don't remember anybody calling him anything other than Master or the one-armed boxer.
Yeah, which also, by the way, I don't know how I've seen this previously, but not seeing somebody call somebody Sifu and somebody and just calling them teacher is just drives me a little bit. No, they just call him Lu T Lung, the one-armed boxer, but it's just the one-armed boxer. That's just what it is. I don't care what anybody says.
Man, I want a scene where he's in a restaurant and the lady comes out and says, "Boxer, party of one arm."
Terrible, just terrible.
Like his name is like, his first name is Juan, W-A-N. His middle name is Armed, and his last name is Boxer.
One armed.
No, it's Juan for cultural reasons.
Boxer. He was invited to Kumite as well.
Yeah.
They were all invited except for the Thai guy, which we don't want to see him
the
for
more
some
we
reason.
talk about this, the more I want to make a hillbilly Kumite.
Hey, listen, I think they had those. That's called the internet. There's just bum fights.
Oh man, I was thinking like those tough man contests that used to be all the rage.
Appalachian bum fights. Here we go. They do enough of the slapping these days. I think that's the new.
But the big climactic battle. One thing I love about kung fu movies is like you kill the guy you need to kill, and the movie says the end, and it's over with. It's like. There's no fooling around once the movie's done.
Yeah, credits. I'm not even giving you credits. I'm giving you the end.
Get out of here before it gets dark. We can't tell you what's going on. We filmed this in one day, and this is when it got to be 7:35, and we had to break down and get out.
We got some really strict rules around here about overtime, and we are not having it. So it is shut it down, and we're finished. But
and
they
I
jump
really
at like so much destruction in that last scene and stuff, and I love the fact that again he's blind and has to do all the different kind of the hearing and stuff and figure out where things are. It's just a culmination of everything that we've seen, and that's again how these movies are designed.
I've got a question for you though. If you had access to nearly infinite grenades, would you be intimidating people with your flying guillotine? I'd be like master of the grenades, who also happens to have a flying guillotine. Because I would definitely be opening with all those grenades he has.
I just need to be grenade man is all. That's
yes, master of the flying boom boom. That's what I would be, which is sounds like an erotic parody.
Yeah, there were a lot of like random fires and stuff in this when you figured he would have done more on the fire front. But no, just gonna throw.
He's the only character that seemed to have grenades, but he was known for his flying guillotine.
Funny part is that as many heads as we see a popping in this film, I don't know that we see one actual decapitated head. Sans, you know what I mean?
All they had was a cabbage with a little ketchup smeared on the bottom, and that's what they used.
They're just like, that's fine, that works. It's out of the frame real bit, and then by the time that it's got back to him, there's no head in it, but we don't see like a head roll away or anything like that. We just see a headless body, and then I don't know, maybe the hat ate the head. Maybe that's how it works.
That's what powers it. It runs entirely on brain fuel.
I gotta be eating some heads. So he just, it's a weird symbiotic relationship. He has to just send him out and just be like, he doesn't want to kill anymore, but the hat makes him.
My mother was a smoker at a time when ceramic ashtrays were something to behold. Like you held one in your hand, you knew you had an ashtray in your hand. And when she got angry and she was master of the flying ashtray, she was way scarier than this guy.
Man, those things could you hurt somebody with that.
But it's a similar technique, you know. There's no evidence there was ever a head on your shoulders. If she'd ever scored a direct hit, it would have just exploded. It wouldn't have been a decapitation. My head would have been exploding like scanners.
Oh yeah. I will say, like, one of the cool things about the flying guillotine, though, too, is that, like, it doesn't always just have to go over the head and stuff as well. At least he does also use it as, like, a frisbee,
like
for lack of a better word.
Star.
Yeah. Because it's got all the spikes still on the end and everything, so it'll just slam into things like that. So that still looks cool. So at least they got like that.
It's almost like an Asian phantasm. Like what is that weapon called in Phantasm?
Whatever that is. The silver thingy-majig. I don't know.
Orb.
The big thing that just flies to your eyeballs and then just spews blood everywhere.
It's what you think Phantasm is all about, and then you watch Phantasm again and realize it's a small part of it.
It's like 5 seconds of the
yeah.
They're just like, well, then they tried to do it in the graveyard, right? It's like, that's the first 5 seconds of the movie. Then it's all of a sudden about little Jawas coming out of I don't know.
Oh, man. I saw Phantasm 2 at the drive-in without ever having seen Phantasm, so that was an experience.
That would be a little confusing, I think.
That was like, I don't know, 11 when that happened. Had a weird life.
Well, let's get to it. If you thought last week's Stallone connection was a little bit sparse, you will just wait till this one, big boys and girls. My name is Adam, and I have a unprepared statement.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. Hello, Mr. Stallone. have you heard of this movie before? I don't know that you have. I know some people have, but maybe it's not a movie that a lot of folks have seen. But Master of the Flying Guillotine is referenced all over the place. It is in Wu-Tang songs. It is in just Quentin Tarantino films. It's just about everywhere. There's so many movies that have taken from this and scores from this. It is just fantastic. But unfortunately, no one in this or anywhere close to related to you. In 1973, who the heck knows what you were doing, but it certainly wasn't this. And it wasn't connected to anybody in Hong Kong cinema because I don't know what you know over there, but they don't like you. They just don't. Japan likes you. Japan goes over. You do a couple of commercials over in Japan, everything's good. China, I don't know what it is, Mr. Stallone, but they don't particularly like you over there.
They thought Jet Li got short shrift in Expendables 3.
Yeah, and they've never forgiven you for it. Even Jet Li knew to get out of that so fast. Did you, like his role in Expendables 2 was like him showing up and being like, "Oh guys, I'm so sorry to be this kind of guy. I've got to go. I've only been here for 5 seconds, and I really haven't done anything action-wise, but I wish you the best on your mission. See you later." And he
got to use my name on the poster. Now give me a check.
Exactly. He parachuted out. I think it literally, if memory serves, he parachuted out of that movie, and we never saw him again.
You're right.
He was just like, "Nope, I'm finished with this one." But instead of like sitting and like looking and scouring and figuring out a good Stallone connection, you know what I did, Mr. Stallone? I got in the car. And I drove all the way to Barnes & Noble because it's the 50% off Criterion sale. And you know what? Hong Kong's own Jackie Chan's got a brand new box set that just came out this week. It's called Emergence of a Superstar. And it contains 6 Jackie Chan films. Half a Loaf of Kung Fu, Spiritual Kung Fu, The Fearless Hyena 2, Young Master, and My Lucky Stars. 6 films, Mr. Stallone, from 1978 to 1985. These are pretty much your grow-up times as well. I think that, you and Jackie Chan are very similar in many ways, but yet you've never been in a film together. Why is that? Why do we need Chris Tucker for Rush Hour 4? He's being a little bit of a weirdo right now, but you know what? I think we could get you in there, Mr. Stallone. It'd be just A-okay with me.
Oh, man.
That's my Stallone connection. It's Hong Kong movies because this movie stirred up a little Hong Kong love in me today, Bruce. And after I watched it, I was just like, bro, with the holiday season coming up and everything with work, I am not going to be able to get to the store fast enough. And this is a brand new release in the 50% off Criterion sale. So I had to go. So that's the connection this week, Mr. Stallone, is Criterion again for some reason. He's not connected again to like he doesn't have a Criterion collection. Come on.
You know that Jackie Chan just doesn't want to do an Expendables movie because he had to be like one of you call Jackie Chan before you call Jet Li for something like that, right?
Yeah, and again, I mean, Jackie's like much older than Jet Li, if anything,
But that's the shtick originally of the Expendables is that they were all washed up.
Yeah, it was all just old people and everything. But at that point, though, even Jackie still was like doing pretty hot stuff. Like it wasn't a Rush Hour stuff at that point, but he wasn't kicking it low enough, I don't think.
So I can remember a joke, but I don't remember the person who told it. But it was a black comedian who's also an actor. Mm-hmm. And he said that he was so close to getting the role in Rush Hour, then at the last minute, they took Jackie Chan instead. And that's the joke, because it would have been him and Chris Tucker in Rush Hour, but instead they took Jackie Chan.
Oh, I think I've heard that story, but like when you hear that person tell that story, you're like, this is clearly a fabrication.
Yeah, but you're going with it.
Good joke.
With it, and he goes, then they took Jackie Chan.
Then they took that Jackie Chan. That you know who that sounds like? Who I would hope said that joke just because of the brain picture that it puts together. I hope Cedric the Entertainer said that joke.
You know what? It sounds like a Cedric joke,
doesn't it? Though it kind of sounds like that's his brand. That like he sets that up and like, oh, and then they went with that guy, like the guy you absolutely would not picture him being. That sounds like a Cedric joke.
Or maybe it was the other way around. Maybe it was the guy from The Hangover, the Asian guy from The Hangover,
Kim Jong.
It might have been his stand-up when he said he almost got Rush Hour and then they took Chris Tucker instead. That might have been when I heard it. It might have been the other way around.
Well, that's the multiverse of comedy, and after a while, it all starts to be the same. Anyway, again, much like this film itself, it's self-referential, and you're not quite sure where the references came from in the first place. And it's like, is this the originator? Did it not? Did so many people copy this one? But is it a copy of the copy? Who's to say? Well, let's get down to it. Bruce, where do you put Master of the Flying Guillotine on the Patent and Robin rating system?
I love this for the same reason that I love all the low budget horror stuff. I love the effects really look like a guy had what was in his garage and had to figure it out. And I love that. I love the resourcefulness of this ultra low budget, the glue on the mustache. Clearly there's an arm under your shirt there, one arm.
Yeah,
boxer.
this isn't quite of the level of like comparatively, which Jimmy had just kind of come off of in a lot of ways, was like your Shaw Brothers stuff. Those were so well polished. They had a lot of money behind those. This looks like they are on borrowed sets.
So I love this kind of thing, but I know not everybody's going to,
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to give it an enthusiastic Damian Wayne, but it's gonna be the sort of thing that some people are going to turn off about 8-9 minutes into it.
I don't know. Like I said, I think it's intriguing enough. I think that with the beginning really setting up that story and the expectations that you kind of have, the little the Flying Guillotine demonstration, that they set the table so well that I feel like you have to kind of go along with it, and with its kind of cookie cutter story and everything. If you're not really super familiar with that, it's a great. It's a cookie cutter for a reason. It works.
If you're in the mood for an unintentionally campy, hyper stereotypical kung fu film, man, you can't go wrong with this one.
Yeah, it's over the top. It's a lot of fun, but at the same time too, I don't think it goes as far as it could in some places and stuff. But again, that's also part of the charm of it. Just check it out. It's a lot of. I think it's a super fun movie, and again, one of those that you can just bounce in and out of, especially with your dub version and stuff like that. So you don't have to sit there and pay super close attention. But then again, they're not trying to smack you with a whole bunch of dialogue in the first place, anyways. This movie could almost, like a lot of these films, could almost be played silently, and you'd still understand everything that was going on. So Tim Drake for me, really enjoyed this film.
I won't argue with that.
And it's one of those, again, it's one of those that I've seen, but I know maybe not a ton of people have seen it. But boy, oh boy, when you start seeing it and being able to pull out all the references that everyone has done over the years, it's pretty fun.
Yeah.
All right, well, that will do it. We got one more week of the classics that you might not have seen, and we are going in a really different direction this time, Bruce.
I want to hear it.
This one's from 1979. It comes from, I think, American International, if memory serves, off the top of my head. It's available on Plex right now, but here's the big thing. I'm going to tell you the title of it, but I don't want you to read anything about it. I don't want you to watch a trailer, because this movie is an adventure. It's not what you might think, and it's got some interesting twists and turns that I don't know what trailers or plots will consist of on the internet. But it starts out just a girl in high school, and things go a little different. That's all I'll say. But it's called Malibu High. It's from 1979. And it's an app called Plex right now. It's in looks widescreen. Looks like it's a nice kind of transfer and everything. But again, this is also something that by the end of it, Bruce, I won't even have to tell you, but there's a reference that when you see it, you'll know what it is, because your head will explode off of your shoulders, and you'll go,
time.
I cannot believe what I am watching right now. And when you do the research, you're gonna just go bananas, because that's what I did with this movie. It's nuts. Malibu High, 1979. You may even be able to find that on YouTube. It's quite possible it's even there, because it's one of those things that, like, I think I first saw it on a like a Grindhouse DVD collection is with Plex 15 different things.
One of those free ad-supported streaming services?
Yes, it is.
Good. I'm falling in love with those. FilmRise is great.
Yeah, FilmRise stuff, all like the Tubies. It sounds stupid, kids, but guess what? It's basically the television method.
And that's how I grew up.
And it ain't the worst thing in the world. It really isn't. It's just like, yeah, ads suck sometimes, but it is what it is, and you didn't really pay for it. It's like old school television, you know?
Yep.
So don't be the product or be the product. I don't know. Anyways, that's next week. Malibu High from 1979, available on Plex. We'll be talking about that. Bruce, where do people go to support role-playing games? Ooh, look at that.
Ooh, worldswithoutend.net.
Worlds Within. Close, very close.
Worlds what?
Worlds Within.
Worldswithin.net. My apologies to Slick Derrick the Night Bard.
Listen,
yes.
I put him on the ropes there. That was my fault.
All right, we'll get him. We'll get this thing funded. 75% of the way there. I want to see this funded. I'm not getting paid in any way, shape, or form to say this. I just want this to be a success. And I've been a game master pretty regularly for the past little bit here, so I'm enthusiastic about this project. So check it out. Go support Derrick over there. He's been a supporter of this program for years, literally years. Derrick has. And again, when you do things like that and you have projects and stuff like that, if you're a Patreon supporter, guess what? We're going to be your buddies as well and help sell this stuff out. And when it's a good product like this, we're so much more enthusiastically happy to do so too. Yes, I'd rather do this than Manscaped any day.
Lord, exactly. And we had them. They were like, hey, we'd like to do more stuff. We're just like, nah, it ain't worth any of the hassle that all that crap goes down to. We give that to the people over at patreon.com/HMP. That is it, everybody. Join us next week for Malibu High from 1979. For the absent sweet Sean Zakovacs from the Internet, Bruce Leslie, I'm Adam Portress. Stay super, everybody.
Goodbye, Marty and Evie.